How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Tzadi Daled, Daf 94 of Masechta BavaKama. Friends, friends, let me tell you, Epis. What I'm going to tell you is, this might be a long daf. What can I tell you? Like, it doesn't look like that big of a daf, but I mean, it took a while to go over. I'll tell you that much. But all right. Shinui bimkomo omed. That's the name of the sugya. That when there's a shinui, when there's a change, does that like affect ownership, or does it remain in the same place? Right? Does it not change ownership? That's kind of like the main sugya, I guess. All right, we're going to start on Daf Tzadi Gimel Amud Beis, like 8 lines from the bottom. So yeah, we're going to start on Daf Tzadi Gimel Amud Beis. We're going to get to Daf Tzadi Hey Amud Aleph. I hope. That's the plan. Yeah, friends, these have been big old dafs recently. Big old dafs. Some big old dafs. And we got some big old ones coming up. Woo! BavaKama, it's the big leagues. It's the big leagues. But we're moving. Alright. Daf Tzadi Gimel Amud Beis is about 7-8 lines from the bottom. Tzadi Gimel Amud Beis towards the bottom. Amr Abaye says Abaye Reb Shimon ben Yehuda, okay. Uve Shammai, okay. Reb Eliezer ben Yaakov, okay. Reb Shimon ben Elazar, okay. Reb Yishmael, okay. Kulu Svir Lehu Shinui Bimkomo Omeida, okay. So we just listed 5 Tanoim. All of them hold Shinui Bimkomo Omeid. That even post Shinui, even once there has been a change to something, it still remains in its initial state, in its initial place. Let's explore this. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda Ada Amar. So Reb Shimon ben Yehuda, that which we said at the end of the daf yesterday. Who can remind me what we said at the end of the daf yesterday? What we said at the end of the daf yesterday was that, it says Reb Shimon ben Yehuda, quoting Reb Shimon, that if you have wool that would be chayiv in reishis hagez, but then you dye it, you color it, you dye it, it is still chayiv in reishis hagez. That's not considered a shinui that would now make it potter from reishis hagez. It would still be chayiv in shaykh to reishis hagez. So we see that even post shinui, even after it's been dyed, still it remains, right, bimkomo omid, it remains the same, that it would still be chayav in reishis hagez. Okay, where are we? Beis Shammai Maihi. What is Beis Shammai? We have seen this before. Where have we seen this before? We have seen this on Daf Samachei. The Tanya. It's so, it's cool how like when you get far along in a Masechta, like we're on Daf Tzadi Gimel, Daf Tzadi Daled, and then we quote things from earlier in the Masechta. I mean, Samachei is relatively recent, but you get to things from like the first parak, it just feels like it was ages ago, Even this feels like it was a while ago. It was about a month ago. No, we've done a lot since then. Nosin, so where am I? So Beis Shammai Mahi Tanya. Nosin lo chitin be'es nono. Ho. V'asasan soles. If a fellow visits a harlot and for payment he gives her wheat and then she grinds the wheat into flour. Now the thing is, a harlot's payment cannot be offered as a korban. So the question is, this wheat. So she was paid with this wheat. So this wheat cannot be offered as a korban. But what if you grind it into flour? So you make a shinu, you change it. It's no longer wheat kernels, it's flour. What about now? Now can you offer it as a korban? Do we say now there was a shinoi, it could be offered as a korban? Or do we say shinoi bimkomo omid? That no, even post shinoi, it still remains in the same state as esnan zona, it cannot be offered as a korban. So Beis Shammai Mai D'Tanya Nosin Lo Chitin Be'esnono V'Asason Soles. If a fellow pays a harlot with wheat and she makes them into flour, Zeisim V'Asason Shemen, he paid with olives, and she made them into olive oil. Sorry about Anovim ve'asasan yayin. He paid with grapes, and she made them into wine. Tonichada osur v'tani idoch mutter. So one brisa, one Tana says that you still shinu b'mkoma omed, or so we want to explain that shinu b'mkoma omed, and it's still considered asnan zona, and it cannot be offered. V'tani idoch mutter. The other opinion is that post shinui, it's a changed item, and it can be offered as a korban. V'omer of Yosef, and says of Yosef, Tani Guryan demi asfork, Beis Shammai osrin uveis Hillel matir. And it says of Yosef that Guryan demi asfork teaches that Beis Shammai is the one who says osir, that it's still considered esnin zona, that shinoi bimkomo omed, it remains the same. Beis Hillel matirin, Beis Hillel are the ones who are saying that it can be offered as a korban because it's changed. My time of the Beis Shammai, how come Beis Shammai says that it cannot be offered? The pasuk says gam shneim l'rabos shinuyeyem, because the pasuk says in the context of esnan zona gam shneim, so esnan zona mechir kelev. So it's coming to gam, also is coming to include also their shinuis, also their changes. So not just the wheat, but also the flour, etc. Beis Hillel Omar Kra, Beis Hillel says, the pasuk says heim, right? What does it say? Gam shnehem. So shnehem is like heim. So heim v'lo shinuyim. No, they cannot be offered as korbans esnen zona mechir kelev, but their shinuis can. Beis Shammai oksiv heim. Beis Shammai, what do you do with Beis Hillel's pasuk of heim? That Beis Hillel says only they cannot be offered, but their shinuis can. How mi boile heim v'lo v'ladosayim. Beis Shammai learns out from there them and not their vladus. I assume that's talking about, like, for example, if you pay with like an animal, so only the animal that was paid was the payment. It cannot be offered as a korban, but its offspring can. Beis Hillel tarte shmas mino heim v'lo shinuyim heim v'lo v'ladosayim. Beis Hillel learns out both things from shnehem, that it excludes both. Right. That meaning they cannot be offered, but their shinuis can, but their vladis can. Uveis Hillel nam yoksiv gam. What does Beis Hillel do with Beis Shammai's pasuk of gam? Also, Beis Shammai says it's coming to include that also shinuis cannot be offered. Beis Hillel says gam le Beis Hillel kasha. That's taka kasha according to Beis Hillel for Beis Hillel's mahalach. That is going to be a kasha. Because Beis Hillel, Beis Hillel says that shinuis can be offered, meaning this wheat or this olives or the grapes can be offered if they were made into a different product. Okay, fine. So we see that Beis Shammai holds shinui bimkomo omed. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov mahi. What's Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov's situation? The Tanya is learning the Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer. Harei shegozal soya shel chitin. If a fellow stole, a thief, he stole a sa'a of wheat, tochana, he ground it up, lasha, he kneaded it, v'ofa, and he baked it, defish mimena chala, and he separated chala. Ketzad mevarech, he can't make a bracha on that. That would not be a blessing, that would be a disgrace. And on this the pasuk says, that if a fellow makes a blessing on this, he's blasphemizing the Eibishter. So we see that even post Shinui, it is still what it was originally, a stolen product. And therefore, so we say shinoi bimkomo omed, that even after the wheat was ground up and made into bread, it still remains aser as gizela. Reb Shimon ben Elazar, Maihi, what is the scenario of Reb Shimon ben Elazar, the Tanya that we learned in the Brisa? Klal zeh om Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Reb Shimon ben Elazar said the following rule: Kol shevach sheishbiach gazlin yado al o elyona. that any added value for a gazlin, for a thief, he stands to benefit. Ratza notel shvacho, ratza omla reshelcha lifanecha. That if he wants, he can keep the benefit or the added benefit, or if he wants, he could say, hey, I don't want it, take it back. My kamer knew what's going on over here, right? You might be scratching your heads and being like, this is a little bit unclear. Here we go. Rav Sheshes says, Rav Sheshes, Achikama, this is what it means. Hishbicha. So for example, if he steals like a sheep, and then it increases in value. I don't know, maybe it grows wool or whatever it might be. Maybe produce cheese, whatever it might be. Produce milk, and then, Hishbicha, so if it increased in value, no tel shvachoy. So the gazlin can hold on to that, to the increased value. Kochash, and if the sheep got weaker, he says to the victim, he says, look, take it back. So we see that a thief, basically, he wins, right? Any added value he can keep, and any decreased situation, he says, look, I don't want it, you can take it back. The shinoi bimkomo omed, because the shinoi, i.e. the decrease in value, right? He stole the sheep and now it got weaker. So bimkomo omed, the shinoi, it still remains in the victim's possession. And he says, look, I don't want to take it back. So we see that shinoi bimkomo omed. If that's the case, afilu ishbiach nami. Maybe you were wondering this, but why does it only work in one direction? Right? How come when it gets weaker, we say, Shinu bimkomo omed, hari shelcha lefanecha, here, take it back, I don't want it. But when it gets better, we don't say, Shinu bimkomo omed, and say that the value belongs to the victim. Instead, we say that the gazlan can keep it. How come? Shouldn't we say the same? Shouldn't it work the same both ways? That just like when it gets weaker, it's weaker for the victim, and when it gets better, it's also better for the victim. So amim mipnei takonas hashavim, as we've seen a few times, because of the concept of takonas hashavim, we're going to see more of it on Daf Tzad Al Beis, that takonas hashavim, that we want to, takonas hashavim is an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing because it's very like iffy. It's very like maybe, right? It's like, if we let him kind of keep the cheese, maybe then he'll want to do tshuva. Or it's like, if we take too hard of a stance with him, and we say, whatever wool grew, you have to give back, whatever wool you have to give back, whatever milk and cheese, you got to give everything back. He's not going to want to do tshuva. So maybe if we say you can keep it, he'll realize that we're good guys, and he's going to do tshuva. In the meantime, the victim is like losing out. In the theory that maybe he'll do tshuva. It's an interesting thing, takonas hashavim. It seems like more like the opposite is more true, right? I mean, the classic case of takonas hashavim that actually we're going to get to at the end of the daf, and I think we've seen it before, is that if a fellow steals wood and builds it into a house, we don't make him knock down the whole house in order to return the wood. So kind of I get like if you make him knock down the house, he might be really upset and he won't even think about doing tshuva, right? But is the inverse true? That and now by sort of being nice to him, he's going to want to do tshuva? Maybe. I don't know. In the meantime, the guy lost his wood. Okay, we say because of takonas hashavim, we say that he can hold on to the gains, so that he doesn't have to return. But if it gets weaker, so then look, shinu bimkomo omed, it still belongs to the victim, and he just says, here, take it back, I don't want it. Rabbi Yishmael Mahi, and finally, what's the scenario of Rabbi Yishmael where he says, shinu bimkomo omed, ditanya, that we learn in the Brisa, mitzvahs peyo, ho ho ho, that, who could tell me what peyo is? Peyo is like one of those technical halachas. Was I complaining about it the other day? I don't know, maybe. I complain about so many things, I can't keep track. But pei is like one of those like halachas that are like kind of. Does anybody really understand like leket shechicha and pei? You just kind of like You just kind of like work with it. I don't know. Okay, what's peah? Like you leave the corner of your field. That's what it is. Okay, it's just, I don't know. It's just like very abstract. I don't know. I guess it just doesn't feel so applicable to me. So it's just like kind of like a thing. Like, all right, you have a guy, he's got a field, he's got to leave the corner of it for the poor people. And then it's always leket, shichacha, and peah. And then you have to like remember which one's which. So leket is, what's leket? So leket is like if you're gathering stuff and some of it falls on the floor. So you leave that, but only if it's 2 or less, but not 3. And then as we're going to see soon, peret is the same thing as leket, but for grapes. And then there's the shichacha if you forget stuff, so you got to leave it. Then you also have to leave the corner of your field. And then there's also olalos when it comes to grapes, which is like just like unripe stuff. It's just like you get what I'm saying. It's just like you try to like memorize what they are, just so that you can like plug it in where you need to plug it in, and then move on to the next thing. Anybody agree with that? Or I guess I should say, can anybody relate? Okay, Rabbi Shmuel Mahi. So what's the scenario with Rabbi Shmuel? The Tana that we learned in the Brisa, mitzvahs peah. So when it comes to peah, lehafresh min hakoma, you have to separate it from like the standing stalks. You see, it's like also just very technical. Everything about like Zroim is just technical. Is it at this stage? Is it at that stage? What exactly is it? What if it's Hefker? What if it's Shemitah? How big is the field? I don't know. It's like what exactly is planted there? It's like very technical. I feel like. Take 3. Rabbi Shmuel Maihi. The Tanya is learning about mitzvahs peah lahafresh min hakama. Okay, so when it comes to peah, leaving the corner of the field for the poor people, so that is so you leave it alone when it's still in the I think it's still connected to the ground, right? It's like a standing stalk. You just leave it. You just don't touch it. You just leave it. Then the poor people can harvest it and take it. Lo hifrish min hakama. But what if he didn't do that? He harvested the whole field. He didn't leave a corner. So mafish min ha'omarim. Okay, so now you have sort of all the sheaves, I think is the word, that you've collected. Okay, so you could separate some stalks from that, and that'll be peah. Lo hifish min ha'omarim, mafish min hakri. So I guess that the way that you harvest is like you first, I bet you take like a sickle or something. That sounds like a good like farm tool, a sickle. You take a sickle and you start like cutting things down with your sickle. And then like all of the sheaves are just like lying there on the floor. So that's those omarim. So you can just leave them when they're lying there on the floor. If you like collected all of them and put them in a pile, so then mafish min akri. Okay, so if they're now all in a kri, in a pile, so okay, you could still separate the peah from there. Just take some wheat, take some stalks and separate them as peah, and the poor people can collect those. Ad shelo mercho. So long as meiruach has not been done. Who can tell me what meiruach is? Meiruach is when you flatten the top of the pile. It's at that point when you flatten the top of the pile that it's like, okay, this is complete. All the work here of harvesting is complete, and it's now chayev in trumis and maisus. Up until that point, it's not yet chayev in trumis and maisus. After meiruach, it's chayev in trumis and maisus. So from that point on, mercho, if he has done meiruach, me'aser. So first he has to separate maiser, and then v'nosein lo, and only afterwards does he separate the peah that he needs to separate. So he first has to separate maiser before he can then separate peah. Where am I? Mishum Rabbi Shmuel Omer Amru. They said now they said in the name of Rabbi Shmuel, Af mafrish mino isa v'nosin lo. You can even separate peah from a dough, meaning you then took the wheat and you ground it up and you made it into flour and a dough. Still, you could separate peah. So we see even after the shinoi, even after this big shinoi, still peah, shinoi b'mkoma omed, it's still going to be chayiv in peah. Okay. Now, as is going to be relevant in a little bit, the Chacham would argue on Rav Papa though and say that once the all these shinois are done, so then there would no longer be a mitzvah of peah. Rav Papa Labai now. Rav Papa asks Abai, he says, 1 second, I don't understand. I don't understand. We had a machlokes, the second machlokes that were really the first, like the first Tana was Rab Yehuda what was it? Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, who really we already quoted yesterday, which was the dye with the wool still being chayiv in shaykh tereishis hagez. Now then we saw this machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai was the one who said shinu b'mkomo omid. Beis Hillel said no. Once there's a shinu, you can offer. It's no longer considered esnan zona. It's no longer asur. So Beis Shammai is the one who says shinu b'mkomo omid, and we have all these other Tanoim who are like, clamoring to hold like Beis Shammai. That doesn't make sense. Why would all these Tanoim be going to hold like Beis Shammai that Shinu b'mkomo omid? So again, Amalei Rav Papa Abaye, Rav Papa says to Abaye, Ichbul kolani Tanoi lashminu ki Beis Shammai. I don't understand. All of these Tanoim are clamoring to hold like Beis Shammai. Amalei. So Abaye answers, Hachi ka'amri lo nechliku Beis Shammai v'sil b'davar zeh. Interesting. Apparently, actually, according to Abaye, I think, if I understand, he's saying that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel don't actually argue on this, and I guess Beis Hillel also actually agrees. It's actually not a machlokes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beis Hillel actually agrees that shinu b'mkomo omid. Okay, fine. Omar Rave. So now Rave disagrees. Up until now, Abaye has been sort of leading the discussion up until now, and Abaye was saying that all of these 5 Tanoim hold Shinui b'mkomo omed. Ravi wants to argue that may not be their position. They may not hold of Shinui b'mkomo omed. They may have other reasons why they hold the way that they hold. Not necessarily because they hold Shinui b'mkomo omed. What does that mean? Amar Rava says, Rava, mimai. How do we know that all these Tanoim hold Shinui b'mkomo omed? Maybe that's not the correct conclusion to draw from their positions. Maybe when Reb Shimon ben Yehuda says that when you dye wool, it's still shaykh to Eishes Hagez. Look, even after you dye the wool, if you get the right detergent, you can get the dye out. So maybe the reason why Reb Shimon ben Yehuda, right? Yeah, why Reb Shimon ben Yehuda holds that even post dyeing the wool, it's still shaykh to Reishis Hagez is because dyeing the wool isn't really a shinui. Because you can always get a good starke detergent to remove the dye. That's why it remains shaykh to Reishis Hagez. And the reason why Beis Shammai says that this wheat or olives or grapes that you then made into flour or olive oil or wine cannot be offered as a korban. Lav davka because shinui b'mkomo omed, but just because it's pasnished. Elo legavoya, right? Kama Beis Shammai also elo legavoya mishum de imus. The imus, it's pasnished. It's not nice that you should payment to a harlot should then be offered on the Mizbeach. So even if you say that, a shinui makes a difference, makes a change, still, we wouldn't offer it on the Mizbeach. V'adkan lo ka'amur Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov also, and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov also, when it comes to if you steal wheat and you make it into flour, don't make you make it into bread, don't make a bracha on that. Don't make a bracha on that. For the same reason, it's not because Shinui b'mkomo omed. No, you can even say a Shinui is significant, but el inyan bracha. When it comes to making a bracha, mishum dehavle mitzvah aboya ba'avere. I believe the bracha that we're talking about is the bracha on challah, I think. So we're saying be'etzim it's a mitzvah aboya ba'avere. It's a mitzvah aboya ba'avere. I think is that what we're talking? We're talking about. Wait 1 second. Yeah, v'fish memenach. I assume that we're talking about. The bracha of challah. So let's just assume that. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says even if you say that the shinui makes a difference, but you stole something and now you're going to make a bracha on it for doing the mitzvah of challah. No, meaning so therefore it's not lav davka that he holds shinu b'mkomo omed. He might just say, look, we don't make a bracha, right? Mitzvah baba aver. It's a mitzvah, the mitzvah of challah, that came about because you stole wheat. That's not something that we make a bracha on. I don't care, even though there was a shinui. Ultimately, this mitzvah came about through ill-gotten methods. And when Reb Shimon ben Elazar says that when you steal a sheep and it gets weaker, and you say, okay, just take it back, it's not because of shinui b'mkomo omed. It's because, chevre, as I can tell you, and as I'm sure many people can relate, when you lose weight, it's not that hard to put it back on. And therefore, this sheep getting a little bit weaker, that it's not really a shinui. Just give it some food, it'll go right back. So it's not really a shinui, and that's right. So meaning, so that doesn't prove shinui b'mkomo omed. Losing weight isn't really such a shinui. You can get it back pretty quickly. So Adkan l'komer Reb Shimon ben Elazar also, when Reb Shimon ben Elazar says that it got weaker, he says, here, take it back. It can always come back. You can put back on weight. So it's not really a shinui. So it doesn't teach us shinui b'mkomo omed. Ve'adkan l'komer Rabbi Shmuel also, and Rabbi Shmuel, who says by the peah that when you grind it up and you make it into dough, it's still chayiv in peah. It's not because shinui b'mkomo omed. The Indian peah mishum dichsev tazov yisir. It's an under ezach because of the droshe of tazov. It says tazov twice. Where does it say tazov twice? There's two psukim in a row. Okay, fine. You want me to read them? So that's the first tazov. You see? So there's two psukim that mention tazov. So because it mentions tazov twice, it's saying that it's giving extra oomph to peah, to say that even after it's been grounded up and made into a dough, still you're going to separate peah. But that wouldn't necessarily teach that in general we say shinui b'mkomo omed. This is a halacha that's specific to peah. And if you're going to say, well, why don't we learn out from peah that, well, in a chinami it says an extra tazov, and because of the extra tazov we say that essentially in this case shinui b'mkomo omed, that even after the flour, the wheat has been grounded up and made into a dough, you're still going to separate peah. So why don't we say just like by peah shinui b'mkomo omed essentially? So also everywhere, let's say shinui b'mkomo omed, matnos aniyim shiny, period. So just no, matnos aniyim are different, and we can't learn out from matnos aniyim and from peah be'etzim, and that's that. And now Rabbi brings a proof for the fact that that when he says that according to Rabbi Shmuel, the reason why you still separate peah even after it's been made into dough is because of the extra tazov. Okay, the Rabbi Yonason, like Rabbi Yonason asks, the Rabbi Yonason, my time of Rabbi Shmuel, what's pshat with Rabbi Shmuel? That even after it becomes dough, you still separate peah. Mishum de kasover, shinui eino kone. Is it because he holds shinui eino kone like Abaye wanted to argue, and that shinui b'mkomo omed? Or Dilmar perhaps, ba'alma kasover shinui kone. Or no, maybe Rabbi Shmuel would generally hold shinui kone and would not say shinui b'mkomo omed. V'acham mishum dichsev tazav yisera. But over here, it's specifically because he says, the pasuk says tazov an extra time to teach that that even though in general a shinui is kone, but here still separate peah. And if you're going to say that like Abaye says, that the reason for Rabbi Shmuel that even after it becomes dough, there's still peahs because shinui b'mkomo omed. Tazov yisera the cause of achmar lomali. Well, then why does it say an extra tazov? Why do I need it? You separate peah because shinui b'mkomo omed. Right? If you say that in general shinui is kone, but just not over here because there's an extra tazov. Okay, but if you say shinu b'mkom omid, so why do I need tazov? Visu, and more so according to the Rabbanon who say that you don't separate peah once you make it into dough. Tazov Yisera, the cost of the Rahman Lamli, then why does it say the extra tazov if they're saying that you don't separate peah at this point? You need it for the following brisa. Amafkir karmo, a fellow who makes his vineyard hefker, v'hishkim laboker, right? So he made it hefker, and now he doesn't need to separate trumas amaisus and stuff. V'hishkim laboker, and he wakes up first thing the next morning, uvatzor, and he quickly harvests it. Chayv v'ferd v'olas v'shichcho v'peu ufatum and amaiser. So still, even though he made it hefker, because of tazov, the extra tazov, it teaches that even though you would be potter from meiser, you would be still chayiv in peret, which is like leket, that whatever falls when you're gathering, so you leave that. Uvaolos, like unripe, like grapes and stuff. Uvashichacha, things that you forget about. Uvapeya, and leaving the corner. That's what you would learn out from the extra tazov. Okay, so does that mean that it's like shtickle inconclusive? But at least, okay, maybe I don't know, maybe, but at least we're like kind of I guess showing that right that it could be that the reason for Rabbi Shmuel is because of the extra tazov, not necessarily because shinu b'mkom omid. All right. Omar Rabbi Yehuda Omar Shmuel Alocha Reb Shimon ben Elazar. So now Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel that the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Elazar. That the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Okay, so now the shaila is, what does Reb Shimon ben Elazar say? According to Abaye, what Reb Shimon ben Elazar says is that shinu b'mkom omid, that even though the sheep got weaker and there was a shinui, still he says you could take it back. I don't want it. When he steals a sheep, so we see shinu b'mkom omid. Rava wanted to say no, it doesn't teach that. It's just not a shinui. So now Rabbi Yehuda says in Shmuel, Allah Reb Shimon ben Elazar, that the halacha is takalike Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Umiyamar Shmuel Achi, does Reb Shmuel say this? V'amar Shmuel, Ein Shamin. Reb Shmuel says that we don't evaluate lo leganiv v'lo legazlin elo linizokin. Okay. That we had learned way back when, that for example for shor muad, if Shimon's shor muad kills Ruvain's shor tam, kills Ruvain's shor, right? So Shimon's shor muad kills Ruvain's shor. So Shimon, it's the shor muad, has to pay the whole value of Ruvain's shor. But we say Ruvain keeps the carcass. Ruvain keeps the carcass. And what Shimon is chayiv is the difference between the value of the carcass and the value of the Ruvain's shore when it was alive. So in that case we say that we give the carcass back to Ruvain and say, here, you keep that, and then Shimon pays the difference. We would not say that by a ganef and a gazlan. So therefore, in this case, when we have a gazlan and he stole the sheep, we would not say, here, take it back. We would say, pay the whole value of the sheep at the time of the theft. So this doesn't really make sense, because on the one hand, Rav Yehuda is saying that Shmuel is quoting Shmuel. Rav Yehuda is saying in the name of Shmuel that the halacha is like Rav Shimon ben Elazar, that you give it back. But at the same time, Shmuel also said that a ganef and a gazlan doesn't give it back. You just pay the value at the time of the theft. So again, Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel halacha Reb Shimon ben Elazar umiyamar Shmuel achi v'amar Shmuel ein sham lo leganef v'lo legazlan elo lenizakim, only by damages, not by a ganef and a gazlan. B'shlama l'Rave. Now I can understand this is going to Rave. De Amar, who says ki ka'amar Reb Shimon ben Elazar hasam be'akchasha dehader. That Rava says that Reb Shimon ben Elazar is specifically talking about, if the animal loses weight. Okay, so the gazlan could say, look, take it back, I don't want it. Because it's not a real shinui. It's not a real shinui. And therefore he can give it back. Feed it a little bit, it'll go right back to how it was. So therefore he gives it back. Lo kashu ki ka'amar alocha Reb Shimon ben Elazar deshinui bimkomo omed be'akchosha dehadav v'chi ka'amar Shmuel asum ein sham lo leganav v'legazin elo nezakim be'akchosha delo hadar. Did you get that? Probably not. Did you get that? Probably not. I get it somewhere in my brain, and I'm going to organize it right now and explain it. So be'etzem, according to Rava, these two statements of Shmuel are not contradictory, are not contradicting. On the one hand, Shmuel is saying that only by nizakin, when Ruvain's ox is dead, so then by damages, right, that Shimon's Shormuad killed Ruvain's ox, so by nizakin we say, okay, Ruvain holds on to the carcass of his ox, and Shimon pays the difference. But if Shimon stole Ruvain's ox, and then it died, we don't say, here, take back the ox and take back the carcass and I'll pay the difference. No. When it comes to the same scenario, where Ruvain's ox is now dead, so if it's dead because Shimon's ox killed it, well then that's nizakin, and we pay the difference. But if it's dead because Shimon stole the ox and now it's dead, so then Shimon would not say take back the ox, he would pay the entire value of the ox that he stole. When Shmuel says that the halach is like Reb Shimon ben Elazar, that you say take back your ox or your sheep or whatever it is, that's talking about where the sheep or the ox is not dead. It lost some weight. It's not really a shinu anyway. So yeah, we say good, take it back, feed it a little bit, it'll go back to how it was. So those are two different scenarios and they're not contradicting. Abaye, but according to Abaye, Darmaki Ka'amar Reb Shimon ben Elazar be'akchosha delo hadar, that according to Abaye, who says it's simply shinui bimkoma omed, that even post shinui it still remains with the original owner, and you could just say, hey, take it back. Well, then that would mean that even if the animal's dead, the Ganav should be able to say, here, just take it back. Well, then those two things are contradictory. On the one hand, if Rav Yehuda is saying that Shmuel says that the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Elazar, that even, and according to Abaye means Shinu b'mkom omed, that even if the animal is dead, we say, here, Reuven, take it back your dead animal, after Shimon had stolen it, said, take back your dead animal. Well, that contradicts the other statement of Shmuel, which is that we only say take back your dead animal by damages, but not by theft. So Abaye teaches Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel slightly different. Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Amru halacha Reb Shimon ben Elazar v'leilo svirle. Other people said that the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Elazar, but Shmuel does not hold that way, because Shmuel holds that when it comes to theft, you pay back, like at the time of the theft, you don't say, here, take it back. Other people say that you could say, here, take it back. Shmuel would not hold that way. Shmuel would say you have to pay, like at the time of the theft. Okay. Chaved, I think that the next few lines, I think maybe are a little bit, I don't know, just like kind of thinky. And then I think it gets a little bit kind of lighter for the rest of the daf, if I remember correctly. That's how it felt to me when I was reviewing it. But yeah, these next few lines might also be a little bit, I don't know, let's see. I don't think it's too hard. Amr Reb Chia bar Abba Amr Reb Yochanan Dvar Torah Tamido Oraisa Gizela Nishtanis Choseres Be'enei. That says Reb Chia bar Abba Amr Reb Yochanan that Mido Oraisa, a Gizela, a theft that changes, you give it back. You give it back. Shenemar, as the Apostle says, Ve'eshev Gizela Asher Gaza. That you give it back. So even if you stole some wood and you made it into some kind of a vessel, you give back the vessel, you don't give back the value. Because the Bible says, you return that which you stole, even if you made it into something else. And if you're going to say, what about our Mishnah that says just give back the value? Because of Takanas Hashem, that we want the guy to do tshuva, we say, look, you worked so hard, whatever, you don't have to, give it back, whatever, just give the value. Alright? But really, be'etzem midoraisa, you should give back the actual item. Would Rabbi Yochanan really say that midoraisa you give back the actual item? That of course we know that we generally assume that Rabbi Yochanan's opinion is that the halacha is like a stam mishnah. V'tnanim, we have a stam mishnah. Lo hispek lidno ad shetzvo potter. That by Reishis Hagez, if you have this wool that you would give to the kohen, but you dyed it, then you don't need to give it to the kohen. So we see that a shinui makes a change, makes a difference, makes a kinyan, and you don't have to give back the actual item mida oraisa. So what's pshat? On the one hand, Rabbi Yochanan is saying that mida oraisa you have to give back the item. On the other hand, he generally holds halacha stam mishnah. We have a stam mishnah that says that if there's a shinui, then it changes things, and therefore you would just have to give back the value. Where am I? Omar lu umi derabanan Rabbi Yaakov shmei ledidi mefarsh lemini de Rabbi Yochanan. So says Rabbi Yaakov that actually no, I know what Rabbi Yochanan is talking about when he says that choseres be'ene, that it goes that you just give back the item. Kigon shegosel eitzim meshupin, that if you already stole like a board of wood, Vason Kalim, you made that into a vessel. Also, that is it's not like a real shinoi, a real substantive shinoi, and therefore that it could be taken apart. And that's where he says that midorai, so you give it back. But if it was like a real substantive shinoi, then he would say that there would be a kin, you would just give back money at that point. Tana Rabbanon, the rabbis taught Hagazlonin umalve beribis. Shech echziru ein mikablin meyen v'mikabel meyen en ruach chachamim noche heimenu. So the rabbis thought that if you have a thief, somebody stole something, umalve bribis, or he lent with interest, which is not allowed. Shech ziru, and the thief or the fellow who lent with interest, they want to give back the stolen object, the interest payments. Ein mikablin mehen, we don't accept it because of takonos v'shavim. We want them to do tshuva. We say, look, don't worry about it. Maybe if you say give it to tzedakah. The Gemara doesn't say that, but the point is, hold on to it. I don't want it. It's okay. Better that you do tshuva. And if somebody accepts it, ein ruach chacham nochei menu, the spirit of the sages is not chilling with him. You shouldn't accept it. Just say, look, it's okay. You can keep it. You can have it. I don't need it. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan b'mei Rebbe nishnis mishnah zo, that this mishnah was taught in the days of Rebbe. Titanis v'lin the Brisa ma'aseh b'adam echad. There was a ma'aseh with the fellow. Shabikes lasus tshuva. There was a fellow, he got inspired, and he says, that's it, I want to do tshuva. I want to do tshuva. Leishto, his wife says to him, Reka, you idiot. You want to do tshuva? Don't you know, Mata Ose tshuva, that if you do tshuva, afilu avnet eno shelcha. If you want to do tshuva, all the people, they're going to come and say, oh, I know you. You're a thief. They're going to take out, oh, you want to do tshuva? Okay, time to start paying us back. You're going to be left with nothing, not even your belt. Your hoizin, you're going to fall down, and you're not going to be able to walk outside. You'll have nothing left. V'nimnav lo asa tshuva. He says, Taka make a good point. I'm not going to do tshuva. B'osashah Amru, they said at that time, you know what? Hagazlonin umavei ribius, people who steal, people who lend with interest, Sheikh Zero, if they want to return it, Mekabel man, we don't accept it from them. Mekabel man, and somebody who does accept it from them, the spirit of the sages does not chill out with them. Okay. So meaning because, right, this person he ended up not doing tshuva because he was going to have to return all the stuff that he stole. So we made this takana that if a person wants to do tshuva, don't worry about returning the things that you stole. Meisvei, we have a contradiction. Heniach loem aviem mois shel ribis. All right. So you have heirs, and the father of the heirs had left for them interest. So the question is, do they have to return it to the person who interested in it? Even though the heirs know that this is ribis money, they don't need to return it to the person who is interested. Which implies that they don't need to return it, but their father who collected the ribis would need to return it. So it sounds like you do have to return ribis. Actually, their father Oichit, who collected the ribis, would not have to return the ribis. But the Katoni Bedidu, the reason why the Mishnah is from the point of view of the heirs, Mishum the Kaboy the Mishnah Seifa, because the continuation of the Mishnah says, it's a Mishnah or a Brisa? Brisa probably. Hiniachloim avim pare vitalis v'chodover amesuyim. If their father left for them a cow or a cloak or anything that is identifiable. So for example, if the father had stolen a cow and everybody in town knows that that is Cham Yankel's cow, and their father stole it, so everyone's gonna see the cow and say, oh look, it's the cow that he stole from Cham Yankel. And so because it's identifiable, it's right. So chayov and la'achzer. So then the heirs return him b'nei kvod avim, out of the honor of their father. That it wouldn't be nice that everybody sees this cow or this cloak and says, yep, that's the cow or the cloak that they stole from Chaim Yankel. So it's not mechubad. So to preserve the honor of their father, they return it. But that's specifically. So that specifically we're talking about. In that case, the heirs would return it. Out of the honor of their father. So Tanarisha Nami B'didu. So that's also why the Reisha is from their perspective as well. But the fact of the matter is that even the father would not have to return the interest, so that in the hope that he would do tshuva. I don't understand. What is this stuff that they don't need to return this cow or this cloak out of the honor of their father? You don't need to honor your father if your father is a shmendrik. That do not curse, I don't know, I guess the leader of your nation, only if he's behaving himself. But if he misbehaves, so then to heck with him. So therefore, why are we concerned about the honor of their father if their father was a shmendrik who was a thief? Well, the father did tshuva. He also tshuva, but if he did tshuva, my boy gabe. If he did tshuva, then why is he holding on to this identifiable item? He should have returned it. Well, because he didn't have an opportunity, he died before he had the chance. Thieves, umalve beribis, or those who lend with interest, even though they collected machzirin, they return it. Gazlonin, mai shigavu ika. What does it mean, a thief who collected? What's he collecting? He gazel, vilo gazel, lo gazel. Either he stole it or he didn't stole it. What's his collection? Collection is by ribis, not by thieving. Elo, ema gazlonin umay niu. Who are these thieves? Malve ribius, those who lend with interest. Afapisha gavu machzirin. Even though they collected the interest already, they return it. So it seems like we do accept ribis when it's returned. Ami machzirin vein mekablein. No, they return it, but we don't accept it from them. Elam machzirin. So why do they return it if we don't accept it? Lo tzisidei shemayim. Talis biyotze, their obligation vis-a-vis God. That, well, you see, at least I tried to return it. But the people who don't accept it said they'll do tshuva. Tashma Kamanir, Haroyim, the shepherds who allow their sheep, or maybe their sheep inevitably grazed on other people's property. V'agaboyin v'amochsin. Gaboyin, I don't know, they seem to be it seems like Gaboyin and Mochsin are very, very similar. They're basically collecting taxes. The Gaboyin maybe are collecting for the king, the Mochsin are maybe local. But I think that the point is that they tend to skim from the top a shtickle and not so good out not stealing. Tshuvasun kosher, so it's very difficult for them to do tshuva, because how are they supposed to return to all the people that they stole from? These are people who are stealing at scale. Right? A shepherd whose sheep are they're mamish eating everybody's grass. Right? They're the tax people, they're collecting tax from all the people. The scope of their theft is quite large. How are they supposed to do tshuva? Because how are they going to return all the stuff that they stole? And they return to whoever they know. So if whoever they know that they stole from, so they return to those people. So again, we say, yeah, they return it, but the people don't accept it when they try to return it. So then why do they return it if it's not going to be accepted? To be yotzezan als the Eibishter. If that's the case, amai tshuvasun kosher. Well, then what's so difficult about their tshuva if they basically get to keep all the stuff that they stole, their ill-gotten gains? Ve'od, and more so, ema seifa, I'll tell you the seifa, v'she'ein makirin, and whoever they don't know in order to return to them, yaiseh boin tzorkei tzibur. So you know what? Build public, wells and things that will service the congregation. So at least that way, their efforts will be repaying the people, even the ones that they don't know who they are. So it does sound like we are encouraging them to right the wrong. That whoever they recognize, pay back. Whoever you don't recognize, build like public wells and things that will service the people, so that you can repay them in that way. We're talking about pits, ditches, and vaults, things that will service the people. So lokasha kan kodem takone kan la'acher takone. So actually, we say that okay. So when we say that you don't need to return what you stole, so that's after the takona that they made during the days of Rebbe. This braise that we're talking about, where we say return it to all the people and then build the public things, that was before the takana. Okay. The Ashad Amar of Nachman, and now that Rav Nachman said that he makes a distinction between if the gezela, if the stolen item itself exists, if the stolen item itself exists, so just give back the item. But if it doesn't exist, you don't need to pay the money. So then, then you can explain that actually even all this is after the takana of Rebbe, during the times of Rebbe. It depends. When we say don't accept it, it's when the gezela no longer exists and he's paying money. No, let him keep the money. But if we're talking about, but if he actually still has the item itself that he stole, so okay, he can give it back. But what about the story with the guy who was going to do tshuva and his wife warned him that they're even going to take your belt away from you? So there, apparently his belt isn't his belt, it's a belt that he stole. And it sounds like we're saying that he doesn't need to give it back. So my avnet dmei avnet. When we talk about his belt, we're talking about the value of the belt. So I guess money, not the item itself. What? And whenever the gezela exists, we don't make this takana and we say give it back. What about takanas marish? The gezela kayemes, when a fellow steals a beam and he builds it into his house, so the beam exists. It's part of his house now. Vitnan. Ala marish agozul, we learned Masechta Gittin that if a fellow steals a beam, shabano bebira, and he builds it into a house or a building, sheitol damav, that he pays the value and not the beam itself, mipnei takonas hashavim, because of takonas hashavim. So it sounds like in the interest of tshuva, we say that even when it exists, you don't need to give it back. Shiny awesome, there it's different. They came to ikap seida debira shavio rabban and kiddelei. So that's a different story, because since he had built it into the structure, the only way to get it out would be to destroy the structure. So then we say, okay, forget about it, just return money. But where you could just literally just take it out of a drawer and give it back, so then you give it back. Friends, that was Aftzadi Dal of BavaKama. That, what was it? It ended up being like almost an hour, I think, this daf. It was a big old daf. We talked about, So Abaye wanted to make the argument that there are these Tanoim who hold Shinu B'mkom Omed. Rava wanted to argue not necessarily so fast. You can explain away why all these people hold the way that they do. Then we learned about doing tshuva, and about if you steal epis, we say that take it easy so that the people will do tshuva. Interesting stuff. That was the Aftzadi Dal of BavaKama. Hope you enjoy. Peace out.